Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Finance Podcast. My name is Paul Ellis, and I'm your host for these programs about developments in this fast-growing industry. According to the United Nations, desertification caused by climate change affects a third of Earth's land surface. This is a growing problem for the 250 million people directly impacted by the degradation of formerly fertile land. Wissal Ben Moussa, co-founder and chief agricultural officer of Sand to Green, says that this Moroccan startup can transform a patch of desert into a sustainable and profitable plantation in 5 years. And the firm's technology can be deployed anywhere there is a source of brackish water, which Sand to Green desalinates using solar-powered technology. In today's Sustainable Finance Podcast episode, we will unpack some of the opportunities that Sand to Green offers for investors interested in sustainable and profitable agricultural ventures. Hello, Wissal, and welcome to the Sustainable Finance Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Paul, for having me.
We're really excited about hearing from you today, and we're going to jump right into the questions and begin our discussion by talking about what inspired the idea of using agroforestry techniques and solar desalination in desert regions.
Thank you for this question, Paul. But the idea of Sand to Green was merely driven by, the pressing need to address global food demands while mitigating environmental degradation. I come from the south of Morocco, and I've seen how the landscape has been changing those last years. When I say last year, last 15, 20 years, I've seen farms stopping their activity because of the environmental degradation. So we want to recognize the potential of the desertic regions, which are largely unutilized due to the water scarcity that we're having today. But at the same time, those regions, they hold a huge community. They hold cities, they hold rural areas. So this is what Sand to Green has envisioned. We are envisioning using some sort of water efficient agriculture, using solar desalination in our case to provide water, but also to regenerate and restore those lands. And that would enable us to transform those arid land back into productive and agricultural zone. We were also a lot inspired by what the ancestral ecosystem that exist already in arid areas. And this ecosystem is what we call oases. So basically an oasis is this area that is made fertile by a source of fresh water and that is managed by humans in dry and arid regions. And this was our main inspiration. With the global warming that is happening, the only ecosystem that is still thriving in the desert, thriving with life, thriving with food production, are oases. So what we're doing is we created a concept around agroforestry to recreate neo-oases that are productive and that generate economic and environmental, but also social values.
Okay, good. So the work does contribute to combating climate change and desertification as well. That's a hard word for me to say. I'm not sure why. So how is Sand to Green's work part of that whole process?
Well, Sand to Green project, they directly address climate change and desertification by basically first sequestering carbon through agroforestry and also reducing deforestation pressures. The restoration and the regeneration of arid land not only capture carbon, but also help in reversing desertification and improving local environment and biodiversity. By improving soil quality, reintroducing vegetation, which in turn helps in restoring the local ecosystem, implementing agroforestry and regenerative agriculture principle will help us convert, carbon dioxide into biomass, thus mitigating climate change, but will help us also place a heavy focus on soil and soil regeneration and rehabilitation. I just want to add a little maybe definition of the founding principle of Santo Green, which is the regenerative agriculture, which is an approach that for us goes beyond sustainability. Regenerative agriculture is, I like to define it as a system of farming, of course. It's a different principle and practices, but with the one goal to regenerate and enhance an entire ecosystem. In our case, an ecosystem in arid areas. But the main difference between this approach and let's say a more mainstream agricultural approach is by placing a heavy premium on soil health with attention to water management. So it's about creating that holistic closed loop system that is self-sufficient and capable of restoring rather than depleting the land's resources. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. So it sounds like your model can be scaled and replicated in other desert regions around the world. Is that right?
Yes, and that is the goal. The model can be scaled, can be replicated, because the approach, it combines local environment condition, arid local environment conditions, with sustainable regenerative agriculture or agroforestry practices, but also solar-powered desalination technologies, making it adaptable to various desert regions. Of course, the model's scalability lies in its adaptability to different kind of desert. There's not one arid environment. It depends on the geography. It depends on also the water scarcity of the region, on rainfall, etc. So potential for replication exists in many arid regions across the globe, and our model is, let's say, specialized where there is water scarcity and where is a very extreme, let's say, climatic situations. For example, where we are today in the Gulmim region, which is the south of Morocco, it's a known arid region, semi-arid region, let's say. But with the climate change, we've seen less and less rainfall. I mean, at the beginning, it was a region with, let's say, not more than 300, 400 millimeters a year. Today, we are having less than 60 millimeters a year. So rainfall is really, extreme rainfall condition. We're talking also about wind. Desertic areas are really defined in some places by heavy winds. Today, we have extreme heavy winds that can go up to 90 kilometers an hour, that are very hot, going up to 45 to 50 degrees, etc. So those rather extreme climatic conditions, we have a design that can withstand this and create an ecosystem that can be resilient and adaptive.
So lack of rainfall. And I hadn't even thought about the other one, the wind aspect of winds, heavy winds on at least a periodic basis in desert regions. Those are big challenges for implementing your projects in those environments. Any others that you would like to mention?
Well, we are not in lack of challenges.
Have plenty to go around, huh?
A lot of our, when we started the Santo Green project, a lot of the people around us were pretty much calling us crazy. And like, we are having a hard time adapting to climate change in, let's say, normal regions where there is a bit of rainfall already and where the climatic conditions are not that extreme. But you guys are going into desertic areas, which with no global warming are very challenging part of the world. So yeah, major challenges would maybe include, as we said, managing water scarcity and water management. We have to ensure that we have a sustainable, consistent water supply. And this is why we chose to have that through solar desalination. So it's a key challenge today. But not only solar desalination, water management, solar desalination, is one part of managing water. The other parts of managing the water scarcity is first to select plants that do not need a lot of water. Select a mix of plants that together would not need that much water and be resilient to that. The second part is what we call water harvesting. So based on the geography where our plantation would be, we would implement a water design so that would differ from place to place. If there is mountain, if there is a slope, if we have a river, a dry river coming, near the plantation, etc. One other challenge would be soil regeneration. So by soil regeneration, I'm talking about soils that have been depleted by years and years of water runoff, soils that have small to no organic matter in it. So soil regeneration, as I said, soil is one of the focus in regenerative agriculture. When you have a soil that is alive, full of life, microorganisms that create synergies with the plant, and you put the right plants and you have the right entrant into your soil, you put the right organic matter, you put the right mix of microorganisms that could boost your soil life, you have a better soil to withstand whatever the ecosystem would have. So soil regeneration is one of the challenges. And then there's also some that I wouldn't call like nature-based challenges, but those are more of a logistical challenges where basically in remote desert locations, sometimes it causes difficulties in getting people there, transporting material, accessing resources, etc. And one of our main challenges that I think we cracked, it's the economic sustainability. So we had a challenge to balance the high initial investment. We have desalination, we have trees, we have soil regeneration system, etc. So we have to balance that high initial investment in infrastructure with long-term profitability. So that was one crucial challenge to crack.
Well, good luck with that one for sure. And you did mention a moment ago that sometimes the reactions you get from local communities of people near where you're setting up a project, they're kind of wondering how you expect or how it's expected to work. What are the social impacts of your projects on local communities where you're setting them up?
Well, one of our first drivers was the local communities. As I said, I'm from the Gulmim region. I grew up there. And before starting the Santo Green, I used to work with the local villagers, the local farmers. I want to share one phrase that one farmer told me once, and I think that was my main driver, and it is still. He told me that they do everything they know how to do. They do everything, all the practices that their ancestor did, but it's not working anymore. So the issue here is not on, there's a lot of issues with rural area, exodus, the lack of training, etc. But the main thing here is that we have some farmers that still want to farm, but they just don't know how because things change too much. The ecosystem is changing drastically and quickly, and they do not have the means to adapt and to be resilient in the face of this change. So we created Santo Green around this. We want to have a social impact on local communities. How is that going to be made? So we want first, of course, creating employment opportunities, but also educating and empowering local population in sustainable agricultural practices. So the idea is to have a hands-on experience, skill building among the local population that would lead them to long-term socioeconomic benefits. This is the first skill development thing. The second would be that we will integrate whatever crops they are cultivating in their land into our commercial circuit. That is also that is the thing for food, but also for carbon credits. There's also one social impact that is maybe a more broad, and that would be linked to food security. Local food security. We are producing agricultural goods locally. So by doing that, our projects, they would contribute to the food supply in the region. We made sure that all the crops that we're cultivating on our plantation are local crops known by the local crops that are meant for the local market. So we're enhancing food security, yes, but we're also, for now, giving the communities the choice to buy local, to buy from a carbon neutral source of food also.
That's really fascinating. So now you're working with the local communities, you're training them, you're offering them education programs, and you're also using new agricultural techniques that are supported by technologies that are being developed all the time. What kind of technological innovations has Santa Green been developing or utilizing in its projects?
Well, when it comes to technology, Santa Green developed one of our, our pride today is that we developed a kind of a specialized software platform for agroforestry management in arid zone. We are incorporating in this data from satellite, data from ground source, and that would help to manage plantation efficiently. This comprehensive software platform, it can be used, of course, by us to scale up our plantation to bigger and bigger scale, but it also can be used by farmers that have like 1 hectare, less than 1 hectare, and that don't know where to start. Farmers around us, local communities, as I said, we will be offered specialized training in desert agriculture, agroforestry, but there are people around the world in desertic areas that want to implement agroforestry and that are interested with the I won't call that technology, because it's it's a nature-based solution. It's not based on tech. I mean, it's based on the beautiful tech nature can have, which is not tech. So it is the software, but it is also the whole the different breaks of practices, of regenerative practices that we put together. So basically, I like to say that we did not create anything from scratch. We were inspired by oases, which are the best agroforestry system in arid areas. We were inspired by how nature can be resilient. We were inspired by the strength and all the ecosystemic positive synergies that are created by trees, etc. So what we did is that we took all those beautiful things from nature and from tech, with desalination, and we put all those together in a very comprehensive and simple manner.
Okay, and now we're at the point where we want to ask you about the economic viability of transforming deserts into arable land. How is that working with the interface also with the local populations?
Well, economic viability is achieved through a combination of agricultural production from the trees, but not only the trees. We have, in an agroforestry system, we have trees, we have intercroppings, we have undercropping. So all this would enable the farmers or us if we are the asset managers, but also a farmer. If a farmer is using our methodology, let's say, it will give a stream of agricultural production throughout the year. There's also carbon credit generation, and the integration of these two revenue streams, along with efficient resource management, would ensure a profitability in those projects. So when I say efficient resource management, it's about efficient management of water, of energy, that would play a huge role in maintaining profitability. This is why I'm saying that desalination is a technology that we're using, but it's not a solution. Desalination is never a solution on its own. It's part of the solution. If I desalinate tons and tons of water and use them in, let's say, a mainstream agriculture, this is not a solution. I'm using too much water and my agriculture is not regenerating anything. I don't have a boost in biodiversity. My soil is not good enough. By some years, I would deplete that soil as we did with so many thousands and thousands of hectares somewhere else. So desalination on itself is not the solution. The solution is that mix between is how I use the water that I desalinate. Where do I use it? So actually in our tests and our experimentation, and even in our first plantations, we observe that we use less and less water year after year. And that is efficient resource management. And this, as I said, would play a very, very important role in maintaining profitability and sustainability.
That's terrific to hear. That's good news for everybody you're working with, I'm sure, in all the locations. Tell us about your future plans for expansion and any partnerships or collaborations that are pivotal right now to the future success of Santa Green.
Yes, this is a very cool question because we're very excited about all our partnership. We in our future plans, we want to scale up to larger plantations and larger areas. We want to replicate the model in other regions. We're into discussion with other regions in Morocco, but also in countries like Egypt, the south of Spain, Saudi Arabia, etc. When it comes to R&D, we have a beautiful collaboration with academics like AgroParisTech in France. We have a program on soil health that we are developing with CIRAD, which is an agricultural research institute here in Europe. We also are doing one of my favorite programs, which is a collaboration with Mascara Osmosan, which is our desalination partner, and with UMC, which is a big university in Morocco and Europe, and with some experts, many experts. One of them are the salt doctors. Love the name, love the work. What we're doing with in this program is that we're creating outlets for brine management. So as we all know, when we desalinate, I mean, half of the water is fresh water, but half of the water is brine water. So what do we do with this brine? That is the biggest environmental and ecological question when it comes to desalination. So we're developing agricultural design to use that brine into added value produce in desertic areas using halophytes, following the water cycle, the salt cycle. It's really exciting. So our collaboration are really important for us to grow and to always be on top of the field. Regenerative agriculture is fairly new. There is always some new studies, new technique, new. Sometimes we find new microorganisms that can be better in challenging soil than what we're using today. Sometimes it's a new green manure and a new crop that is more resilient, etc. So yes, a lot of expansion plans and a lot of R&D plans.
That's terrific. You're the first podcast guest in a couple of years that has used the word halophytes, where those are plants that live in salt water, right? Or can live in salt water and also can be part of the food source for human beings. Well, that's good. Terrific. Any last thoughts on any of that before we say goodbye to our guests, to you and to our listeners?
I always like to end on a very positive note. We're living in a very difficult era when it comes to agriculture. Global warming is really eating up smallhold farmers, and we all know that 90% of the food in Africa is produced by smallhold farmers that have lands that are less than 5 hectares. So, for me, I believe that the future of agriculture in general lies in alternative methods. I think that one of our responsibilities as green farmers today is to create those neo-oases. Yes, this is what we do with Santo Green, but it's also to show that we need new farmers. We need a modern farmer. The modern farmer, for me, is a responsible individual that is aware of the impact of their action. They're capable of adapting their method to the nature of their soil and the constraints of their ecosystem. And they have an approach that is agile, and they have a long-term motivation, because financial balance in this kind of endeavor can only be achieved over time. And we've been telling that to our investors since day one, because when you invest in NBS, in nature-based solution, well, you need time. I mean, the final gain goes beyond mere accounting. It's the regeneration of life. So my dream for agriculture is that we keep alive this thread of life. For me, a product of agroecology is above all a product coming from a living thread, a thread that should not be cut. A living soil produces living products that benefit living beings who forms living territories. So I think the future of humanity is kind of tied to this thread. And I just want us all to understand that this is essential and that we should work with nature and with these threads to recreate a better sustainable future for agriculture, because we are ever growing and we need to eat.
We certainly do. So, Wissal, where online can our listeners and followers learn more about Santo Green's work in using agroforestry techniques in desert regions? And how can our followers of the Sustainable Finance Podcast contact you with questions about the topics that we've discussed in today's episode?
Well, first of all, thank you for everyone who is listening and who wants to follow up on our journey. You can follow us on social media. We are present on LinkedIn, and we have a website where you could add your email, and you'll be a part of our newsletter when we try to be super positive and tell you about all the cool things that we're doing on the soil, with biodiversity, and with our community.
Yes, please do send us a link to your newsletter, and we will add that to the program when we get ready to drop it. And thanks again, Wissal Ben Moussa of Santo Green, and to our followers. Join us again next week for another episode. I'm Paul Ellis, and this is the Sustainable Finance Podcast.